In this tutorial, we are going to be changing the completion and score criteria for the quiz. So the first thing that you want to do is to go to your folder and double-click into the source file or open it with your command line. And we're going to be using Sublime Text for this part of the course. So we want to go into the course folder, and then the first file that we're going to open is our configjson file. So I'm going to open that with Sublime Text. And then I'm going to go back into the folder and open more. So I want to double click into the EN folder. And then I want to, all of these JSON files here, I want to right click, select them, and open them with Sublime Text. So in order to change the completion criteria and to change the score criteria, I'm going to have to do some editing in some of these files. So the first one that we're going to go to is the configjson file here. And as you can see here, there's a few different things in here, and you'll notice the purple is stands out a lot, and that's what we're going to be editing. So we want to change some of these things in here, and what I want to do is right now my SCORM plugin here is not enabled, and I want to enable that. So that's going to allow us to send our completion criteria for scores for assessments to the learning management system. So I have that on deactivated, so I need to turn that back on. So I'm going to mark that true, and then in order for the user to have their course marked as completed, I'm requiring the course is completed, and then require assessment passed. So if I want them to get a specific score, like right now we have it set to 80, they would have to get an 80 to pass the assessment. Should submit score, we also want to make that true. Should store responses, we're not going to do anything with that, so we can leave that as false. And then should record interaction true. So the only one here that I may change is the require course completed. Now for a second I want to talk a little bit about the completion required. So on our config file here you can see that we said require course completed true. So for that, anything that we have marked in these blocks here in the JSON, I think this is what it is when you have any of your blocks marked as true, and you have that marked as true, then it's going to require them to finish all the blocks, whether it's a question or not, so they'll have to have viewed that. So you could see right here that in each of these blocks it has step blocking, and it says is completion required, and it's set to true. So we're fine with that for right now, but it doesn't hurt to go back. I can just change it to false, because we're not scoring based on completion. We want to have it be scored based on score and be marked as complete based on a specific score. So we'll do that for now. And now in the next part, what we're going to do is look at the course JSON. So in the course JSON, you'll see there's a bunch of different text and whatnot. We have this bit right here that has our page start on the specific page instead of the page above it, which has a view button. So we're starting it there. There's some other things in here that we can change, but the main part that we want to look at right now is the piece about the assessment. So down at the bottom of the course JSON here, we have this little bit about the assessment. We want to post the total score to the learning management system, so we have that set as true. We're having it be marked as percentage based, so that's also true. And then our score to pass is 80%. And I'm just going to leave this at 80, but you could change this if you had wanted to. And there's a few other things in here like bookmarking and whatnot, but we won't address that. Now our next part is the articles JSON. So let's go over that, and then we'll go over 2 more of the files. Alright, so now in our articles JSON, what we want to focus on is the assessment piece. So right here. And what we want to focus on is the score to pass, which you could see in our score or our course JSON, we have it set at 80. So I just want to set it to the same thing here for the assessment. And then I want to pass the percentage again and include total score. My assessment weight's 1, and that's fine. I want to keep it at 1. And then we have a few other things that we can just leave alone, but we have things like question banks here and questions. So we'll just leave those alone. So that's the main thing that you want to focus on in the articles JSON for this. And we want to make sure it's enabled. So the enabled is true. Now let's head over to the content objects JSON. So I'm going to select this. Now for the content objects, this is a little bit different. So we've got our quiz here, and we have the title, the tester knowledge with, and then all the page body and whatnot that's in here. So in order for me to change something like the display title, I would change it here, or the page body, and you can see that that is right here. So when you go to edit it, that's what will change if you wish to change it. So you can edit either the body, page body, display title, and I would ignore the rest of everything else. And so that we won't see some of these things like the view. This is for a button that's on a page above it, but we don't have it set to start on that page, so we won't be able to see that. And then finally, let's head over to the components.json. Now in the components.json, there's not too much that we're going to change with the actual completion criterion score, but I just want to cover this very briefly. So in here, you can also change the question weight. So that's one thing that may be different if you weigh the questions differently. But in our next tutorial, what we're going to go over here is really focusing on the components.json and editing questions, and also changing question types from, say, multiple choice to being able to select all or select one choice, and different types of questions like that. So we're going to go over that in the next tutorial. And that's about it right now for just all of the completion criteria settings that we need to change.